For 28 long years, a royal secret allegedly sat buried beneath layers of palace protocol, guarded silence, and carefully managed appearances. But now, whispers are exploding across royal circles that Princess Anne has finally revealed why Queen Elizabeth II quietly stripped Camilla of her household allowance. And if those whispers contain even a grain of truth, then what looked like a simple financial adjustment may actually have been one of the most revealing power moves in modern royal history. Because this story was never really about money, it was about trust, it was about influence, and most importantly, it was about who Queen Elizabeth believed truly deserved a place inside the sacred machinery of the monarchy. For years, royal watchers dismissed the allowance decision as an obscure administrative matter, the kind of palace paperwork nobody outside the institution would ever care about. But the strange thing was not the decision itself. The strange thing was the silence that followed. No explanations, no clarifications, no discussions, just a wall of royal secrecy that seemed almost designed to make people stop asking questions. Yet whenever a story is buried that deeply, people begin wondering what was so dangerous about the truth. And now, nearly 3 decades later, those old questions are coming back with a vengeance. At the center of this mystery stands Princess Anne, the royal often described as the monarchy's toughest defender. Unlike other family members who found themselves trapped in headlines, scandals, and public dramas, Anne built her reputation differently. She became known as the woman who valued duty over popularity, discipline over emotion, and responsibility over personal comfort. She never needed attention. She never chased applause. And perhaps that is exactly why so many people are suddenly paying attention now. Because if Anne is connected to the resurfacing of this story, royal observers believe there must be a reason. As the monarchy continues navigating life after Queen Elizabeth's reign, old stories are being reopened, forgotten decisions are being re-examined, and actions that once appeared insignificant are suddenly being viewed through a completely different lens. The allowance controversy is one of them. According to royal whispers that never entirely disappeared, questions lingered behind palace walls for years. Why did Queen Elizabeth approve such a sensitive move? What information convinced her to act? And perhaps most importantly, why were palace insiders reportedly discouraged from discussing it afterward? For an institution built on continuity and tradition, silence often speaks louder than words. The more the palace remained quiet, the bigger the mystery became. Many royal commentators point out that Queen Elizabeth was not known for impulsive decisions. She was cautious, methodical, deliberate. Every move carried calculation. Every action considered long-term consequences. She rarely created unnecessary conflict, which is exactly why the alleged removal of Camilla's household allowance has become such a fascinating puzzle. Because if the Queen approved it, many believe she must have felt she had a compelling reason, and that possibility changes everything. Suddenly, the story stops being about finances and starts becoming something much bigger. It becomes a story about confidence, about approval, about whether someone truly belonged inside the institution at that moment in history. To understand why the decision allegedly happened, we must travel back to a very different royal era, long before coronations, long before palace balconies, long before Camilla became queen. Back then, her position inside royal circles was anything but secure. The monarchy was facing enormous pressure. Public emotions remained raw. Newspapers seemed obsessed with every development involving Charles and Camilla. Headlines exploded daily. Critics attacked from every direction. Supporters fought back. And somewhere inside the palace, senior figures were allegedly trying to determine how much change the institution could absorb without damaging itself. Camilla's journey toward acceptance was never smooth. Every step forward appeared to create new resistance. Every attempt at stability seemed to trigger fresh controversy. While the public focused on headlines, deeper battles were reportedly unfolding behind closed doors. Palace advisors found themselves balancing personal relationships against centuries of royal tradition. One wrong move could trigger a public relations disaster. One controversial decision could undermine confidence in the crown. And standing at the center of that storm was Queen Elizabeth. Observers frequently described her approach during difficult periods as calm but relentless. She understood that monarchies survive by protecting institutions, not individuals. Feelings could change, public opinion could change, but the monarchy itself had to endure. Meanwhile, Princess Anne reportedly viewed events through a similarly disciplined lens. According to royal interpretations, Anne's concern was never about personalities, it was about standards, it was about preserving public trust, it was about protecting the reputation of an institution that depended entirely on credibility. And as debates intensified behind palace walls, quiet divisions allegedly began emerging among royal factions. Some believed the monarchy needed to evolve, others feared moving too quickly could weaken the traditions that held everything together. The disagreements were rarely visible publicly, but insiders claim they were very real. What looked like unity on the outside allegedly concealed competing visions for the future of the House of Windsor. And then something else reportedly entered the conversation. Money, not enormous fortunes, not royal estates, something far more symbolic. Household resources, allowances, administrative privileges, support structures, the kind of things most people never notice, but insiders understand immediately, because within royal circles, money often means influence, and influence often reveals where power truly resides. And somewhere inside those palace corridors, a decision was approaching that would reportedly shock Camilla's supporters, strengthen Anne's reputation as a guardian of royal discipline, and leave consequences that would echo throughout the monarchy for decades. Because according to growing whispers, what investigators allegedly discovered during that review was far more serious than anyone expected. And once Queen Elizabeth saw the full picture, everything changed. What happened next reportedly sent shockwaves through royal circles, because when Queen Elizabeth finally made her decision, she did not do it with speeches, public explanations, or dramatic announcements. She did it the way she handled most serious matters throughout her reign, with quiet authority that needed no defense. According to royal accounts and long-standing palace whispers, the household allowance connected to Camilla was reportedly removed after months of reviews, discussions, and internal assessments. On the surface, it looked like paperwork, but inside palace walls, many allegedly saw something entirely different. They saw a message, a warning, a declaration that the rules of the monarchy would not bend simply because circumstances had become uncomfortable. For Camilla's supporters, the move reportedly came as a stunning blow. Many expected minor adjustments, procedural recommendations, or compromises designed to calm concerns while avoiding conflict. Instead, what allegedly arrived was a decisive outcome that seemed to catch many insiders completely off guard. Suddenly, assumptions were shattered, expectations collapsed, and a financial issue that had once appeared relatively small transformed into one of the most talked about private controversies inside royal circles. The reaction behind closed doors was reportedly immediate. Some believed Queen Elizabeth had protected the institution exactly as she always promised she would. Others feared the decision would deepen existing tensions and create emotional wounds that might never fully heal. Yet even critics of the move allegedly understood one thing: the Queen had once again placed the monarchy above personal relationships. It was a pattern that defined her reign and a principle she rarely abandoned. At the center of the storm stood Charles, facing what many commentators describe as an impossible position. On one side was the woman whose future remained uncertain and controversial. On the other was the monarch whose authority could not realistically be challenged. Every response carried consequences. Every silence fueled speculation. Every gesture risked being interpreted as loyalty to one side or the other. It was a balancing act that reportedly became increasingly difficult as the fallout continued spreading through royal circles. But the financial consequences were only the beginning. The deeper impact was emotional. Officially, everything appeared normal. Public appearances continued. Royal engagements moved forward. Smiles remained carefully intact. Palace statements projected stability and unity. Yet, according to royal observers, appearances often concealed a much more complicated reality. The controversy may have disappeared from headlines, but many believe it never truly disappeared from memory. Years passed, then more years, and slowly, something remarkable happened. Camilla's position began strengthening. Step by step, responsibility by responsibility, appearance by appearance, she moved closer to the center of royal life. What once seemed politically impossible gradually became reality. The same woman whose place within royal circles had once generated endless controversy eventually found herself standing beside the future king and later ascending to a role few could have imagined during those earlier turbulent years. Yet according to many interpretations, success did not erase the memory of the struggle. The battles remained part of the story. The setbacks remained part of the story. And the allowance controversy remained one of the most intriguing chapters because it symbolized something bigger than money. It symbolized acceptance, trust, authority, and the difficult path required to earn all three. Meanwhile, Anne reportedly remained exactly what she had always been, a relentless guardian of duty and accountability. Public opinion changed, generations changed, royal priorities evolved. But Anne's reputation remained remarkably consistent. To many observers, she became the embodiment of continuity itself, a figure whose commitment to discipline never appeared dependent on popularity, convenience, or changing trends. And perhaps that consistency explains why this story is resurfacing now. Because today, the monarchy exists in a completely different era than the one that produced the original controversy. Queen Elizabeth is gone, new leadership has emerged, old decisions are being re-examined. Historians, commentators, and royal followers are looking back through decades of palace history, searching for clues about how power truly operated behind closed doors. That is why the timing feels so fascinating. The question is no longer simply why the allowance was removed. The bigger question is why details connected to the story are allegedly emerging now. Why revisit a controversy after 28 years? Why allow attention to return to a chapter many believed was permanently buried? Some believe it is about legacy. Others believe it is about correcting history. And some suspect the full story has still not been told. Because the more royal observers revisit the controversy, the more they begin seeing it as a symbol of something much larger, a struggle between personal loyalty and institutional responsibility, a battle between emotion and duty, a reminder that some of the monarchy's most consequential conflicts never occurred in front of cameras, but behind closed doors where decisions were made quietly, and their consequences echoed for decades. And that may be the most revealing part of all, because if Princess Anne's alleged revelation has exposed anything, it is that the monarchy's greatest battles were often invisible while they were happening. The public saw ceremonies, the public saw smiles, the public saw tradition, but behind those palace walls, powerful decisions were shaping futures, testing loyalties, and determining who would ultimately rise and who would be forced to wait. And many royal insiders believe one unsettling possibility still remains. If a secret this significant could stay buried for nearly 3 decades, how many others are still waiting in the shadows, hidden behind royal silence, waiting for the right moment to emerge?